Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is TVP World. You're watching World News. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and these are the latest headlines. The Liberal Party of Prime Minister Mark Carney has won enough seats in Canada's snap parliamentary elections to remain in government. It is still unknown whether they will secure a majority, with votes still being counted in the western part of the vast country. Projections indicate the Liberals are expected to win over 160 districts in Canada's first past-the-post electoral system. It is unclear whether the Liberals can reach the 172 seats needed for a majority. The main opposition party, the Conservatives of Prime Minister candidate Pierre Poilievre, are projected to remain just shy of 150 seats. Mark Carney took over as Prime Minister from Justin Trudeau, who stepped down in January amid bad polling numbers, triggering snap elections. For months, the Liberals were trailing the Conservatives in the polls. However, the election of Donald Trump in the United States and the ensuing trade conflict between the countries have boosted former central bank Carney. Poilievre, who had taken his party down a markedly populist path, distanced himself from Trump after the latter suggested that Canada should become part of the United States and stop tariffs on Canadian goods. In his nightly address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the world does not want to wait until May 8th for a ceasefire in Ukraine. According to Zelensky, Vladimir Putin's announced ceasefire has been put in place only to secure a peaceful atmosphere during the upcoming Victory Day parade in Moscow.
Now, once again, there is another attempt at manipulation. For some reason, everyone is supposed to wait until May 8, and only then will there be a ceasefire, in order to provide Putin with silence during the parade. We value human lives, not parades. That is why we believe, the world believes, that there is no reason to wait until May 8. The fire must be stopped not just for a few days, only to resume killing afterwards. An immediate, complete and unconditional ceasefire for at least 30 days to ensure it is guaranteed and reliable is what can provide the foundation for real diplomacy.
According to the Ukrainian president, the developing mineral deal between the United States and Ukraine grew stronger and more equitable after recent negotiations. His comments come after Kyiv's foreign ministry announced the country wants to finalize and sign the agreement with the U.S. as soon as possible. The ministry also added that Kyiv seeks a mutually beneficial agreement. Officials from Kyiv and Washington had planned to sign a deal several months ago, but it was delayed in February after a turbulent meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump believes that the deal, which would give American companies access to Ukraine's rare earth mineral resources, should be seen as payment for a loan for the aid provided to Ukraine under the Biden administration. At the same time, Kyiv demands that any future agreement also include specific security guarantees for Ukraine, which Washington is not keen on keeping. Moscow's behavior clearly shows it is not interested in lasting peace, Ivana Stratner of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies told TVP World. Vladimir Putin's proposal for a 72-hour ceasefire has all the hallmarks of a ploys the Kremlin has pushed in the past.
The war still benefits him. There is one thing that he needs, which is a break and a pause to reposition his military, to rebuild, and then to continue with his war. Because we have to understand how Moscow thinks about war in Ukraine. And Putin is very blunt about his ambition when it comes to Ukraine, which is to subjugate Ukraine. We really have to understand that strategic deception is a cornerstone, how Putin actually thinks about a war. He's a KGB guy, he's not a military guy, and he's not interested in peace anytime soon because his ultimate goal is to restore what he likes to call Russian greatness and to continue with his imperialistic ambition.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke on Sunday with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, emphasizing the need for an immediate end to the war. The U.S. State Department said the call was requested by the Kremlin. It's the latest in a series of high-profile contacts between Washington and officials from Kyiv and Moscow aimed at ending the Russian war in Ukraine. A State Department press release said that following Special Envoy Steve Witkoff's visit to Moscow on Friday, April 25th, Rubio outlined to his Russian counterpart the next steps in the Russian-Ukraine peace negotiations and the need to immediately end the war. In an interview with American broadcaster CBS on Sunday, Lavrov also rejected U.S. proposals to transfer control of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to Ukraine and return illegally deported Ukrainian children from Russia. Power was slowly restored to the Iberian Peninsula late on Monday evening, after a huge blackout brought the majority of Spain and Portugal to a standstill. The outage grounded planes, halted public transport, and forced hospitals in Spain and Portugal to suspend routine operations. Power was restored in the Basque Country, Barcelona, and parts of Madrid. According to the Spanish national grid operator, about 61% of electricity was restored by Monday evening. The Spanish Interior Ministry declared a national emergency, deploying some 30,000 troops as government officials convene emergency cabinet meetings. According to the Spanish Prime Minister, the country suffered a loss of 15 gigawatts of power in 5 seconds, which is equivalent to 60% of the national demand. Power is also slowly returning in Portugal, with the local grid operator saying that 85 out of 89 power stage substations have been brought back online. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez spoke out on the blackouts across nearly all of the Iberian Peninsula. Authorities are still investigating the cause of the power outage and have not ruled out any scenario, including sabotage.
What has caused this sudden outage? This is something that specialists have not yet been able to determine, but they will. And the relevant state institutions and all private operators are working together to understand what has happened. All potential causes are being analyzed. I insist again, without ruling out any hypothesis, any possibility. There has never been a fall to zero, as they say technically, of the system. And what is being done right now is to execute the recovery in a progressive and prudent manner to avoid any kind of setbacks in the coming hours.
French President Emmanuel Macron says that France and Poland will sign a friendship and cooperation treaty on May 9th. Prime Minister Donald Tusk recently announced that this could be a landmark document in terms of mutual security guarantees. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said last month that a treaty on mutual security guarantees between Poland and France was being finalized. The agreement, which will be signed in French city of Nancy, will replace a previous treaty signed in the 1990s. A new version is set to significantly deepen ties between the two EU members, elevating Franco-Polish relations to the same level that France has with other key partners, Italy, Spain, and Germany. Poland will be the first non-bordering country with which Paris signed such a high-level agreement. While the document lays out all areas of cooperation between Paris and Warsaw, the key focus will be on defense and energy collaboration. With just 20 days left until the first round of Poland's presidential elections, a new approval poll has been released. While the top 3 contenders remain the same, their standings have slightly changed. According to the latest preliminary polls, Civic Coalition candidate Rafał Trzaskowski continues to lead the race with 31% of the vote. His main rival in Law and Justice-backed Karol Nawrocki sitting at 27%, and coming in third is the far-right Confederation candidate Sławomir Mencen with 16% of the vote. Compared to a previous poll held at the beginning of April, support for Trzaskowski has decreased by 2 percentage points, with Nawrocki gaining 2, while Mencen has dropped by 1. Today, the Polish government signed an engineering development agreement for the country's first nuclear power plant with U.S. consortium Westinghouse Bashell. The deal took place during U.S. Energy Security Chris Wright's visit to Warsaw to meet with Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. Now, before we get into the significance of today's events, let's go to the scene with Jan Kennedy's Future Report.
These signatures mark a major milestone in the development of Poland's first nuclear power plant. On Monday, the company behind the project, called Polish Nuclear Power Plants, signed an agreement with the US nuclear consortium Westinghouse Bechtel. And according to Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, the newly updated document brings much-needed security to the €50 billion project.
The Polish side worked to ensure the agreement better serves our interests as well as those of our partners. Thanks to changes introduced in 16 key areas, this project is now more secure, and the guarantees provided offer a greater sense of safety for everyone involved.
While not yet the final contract, today's signing of the so-called Engineering Development Agreement is seen as a vital bridge ahead of the upcoming major milestones.
We finally have a bridging agreement that is bridging the gap between the design of nuclear reactors in Poland and the final construction agreement. We are ready to discuss further steps when it comes to the agreement on financing scheme with European Commission and the final contract with the Americans.
Although the full details of the deal remain confidential, experts say the updates are designed to flesh out responsibilities of both sides, something that hasn't been clearly defined in the previous contract signed by the former government.
I believe it's the start of a long-term nuclear cooperation between the United States and Poland that will be involved in building future reactors, both here in Poland and in other nations across Europe.
U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright says the deal could spark a wave of nuclear projects, not just in Poland, but across the entire CEE region.
There should be some changes when it comes to the composition of deal, the distribution of responsibility between the parties, and the rules of dealing with any obstacles like delays and other issues with the contract. This is about making it more equal, more adjusted to the needs of the Polish side.
Westinghouse has already signed an agreement to deliver 2 reactors to Bulgaria's Kozloduy power plant and has opened talks with Ukraine, which is eager to reduce its reliance on Russian nuclear technology. The company is also a strong contender for the yet unannounced second nuclear power plant in Poland, for which the government wants more competition. Major players from France and South Korea are expected to present their offers, among others.
If there are other offers, bring them. Look, President Trump is someone who is a deal maker, and if there are other offers that can support this effort, then we should do it.
Currently, the government in Warsaw is waiting for the European Commission's approval of state aid for the project. After this hurdle is cleared, the construction may start in earnest.
The U.S. Department of State authorized a potential $280 million sale of Patriot air defense systems to Romania. According to the U.S. Defense Security Cooperation Agency, Romania is seeking 1 radar set, an engagement control station, 2 launching stations, a power unit, and a variety of support equipment. The $280 million package also includes modification kits, communication gear, classified software, spare parts, and training to ensure full integration and maintenance of the Patriot system. According to a statement released by the Defense Security Cooperation Agency, the sale is aimed at improving Romania's capability to deter adversaries and support its participation in NATO operations. At the same time, the statement said the proposed sale will not alter the basic military balance in the region. And with that, we conclude this edition of World News. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.